What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Black Bear ending explain video. This is one powerful movie which switched gears and became something I really did not expect. While the poster gave me some serious Vivarium movie vibes and the movie itself felt like I was going to get an I'm thinking of ending things twist, well, the movie itself was just incredibly creative. There are so many different ways to interpret this ending, and I probably thought of quite a few different ones when I decided upon my idea of how this movie worked. So let's jump in and dissect this movie. Don't forget to hit like if you haven't already, and subscribe with notifications on to never miss a video. We open with Aubrey Plaza playing Allison sitting by a lake in a red swimsuit. This is seemingly the constant throughout the movie, with it appearing multiple times. She goes in and starts to write her movie. Now it's clear to me that she is writing part one of the movie, so we see the story of Gabe, Blair and Allison in her head. It's why herself is in it, and as the cool girl, as that's how she sees herself. Cool, but ultimately insecure and inauthentic. Yes, what happens next is her thinking the script in her head, and when it flips to her filming the script she made, well, that is very weird. It's why she's in the same cabin throughout the whole movie. She's writing from her experience. She then heads to a cabin in the woods and is seemingly renting this or visiting it, and she is visiting Gabe and Blair, and is instantly an incredibly awkward reaction, as Aubrey Plaza is always the cool, kooky girl she's been cast her entire life, and Blair, the girlfriend of Gabe, is pregnant and seemingly threatened by Allison's cool nature. Blair and Gabe argue, and Allison then goes swimming and is seemingly looked on by Gabe, who is instantly attracted to her. Allison then sits on the dock just like she did at the start of the movie. A bear then appears on the grounds, and all three of them sit around and share dinner together. Now, Gabe is clearly just not that into Blair, and I get the feeling he sort of feels trapped as she's now pregnant, and herself even feels not that into the relationship, as she makes comments about him not being a real artist and makes fun of his royalty checks. That is important for later. We learn that Gabe is very into his traditional gender roles, and Blair is into feminism, and the couple are constantly at loggerheads throughout this part one, nipping and biting at each other throughout. Blair soon turns her rage to Allison, as Allison constantly snipes and sides with Gabe at almost every single opportunity, and almost never takes a side in the argument, and is completely either against feminism or up for it, and we'd later learn that she lied about her family members dying, and she is very much the contrarian, nihilistic character, and it's no coincidence that Aubrey Plaza is in this role, as she's always been the quintessential nihilistic girl from Parks and Rec, Scott Pilgrim, and of course Funny People. And the writer of this movie clearly had the idea of a typically typecast girl unpacking her life into this movie. She writes this movie and is living it in her imagination as things escalate in the cabin, as Blair gets angrier at Allison and Gabe, as Gabe and Allison get together later and they get completely down to it. Gabe has been seemingly gaslighting Blair through their relationship, which becomes clear later in the movie. Blair finds them as they are getting really physical there, and attacks them in a rage, seeing her boyfriend banging the girl she was so very insecure about, as there is a risk of losing the baby after Gabe pushes her, and they rush to go to hospital only to crash into a tree, and we move on to the next part of the movie, and this is where it really gets weird. Now, while part one I think was written by Allison and this is in her head, parts of this certainly did happen, as the synopsis reads. At a remote lake in the Adirondack Mountains, a couple entertains an out-of-town guest looking for inspiration in her filmmaking. The group falls into a calculated game of desire, manipulation, and jealousy, unaware of how dangerously convoluted their lives will soon become in the filmmaker's pursuit of a work of art, which blurs the boundaries between autobiography and invention. So this means that the movie they make in part two is a distilled version of the reality that happened and also expanded upon in Alison's mind. In part 2, we open and Alison is filming the movie of the script she's written based on her own experiences in part 1, and she's being treated like crap by her husband, who's the director of the movie. So part 2 is essentially the real part. However, we learn he and the actress playing Blair are working to gaslight Alison into making her angry to get a great reaction and acting performance from Alison herself. Yes, while actors and directors do this all the time, it just really does not sit well with me that Gabe is so easy. It comes to him easy, especially with Blair. Over the course of the second part, it is clearly working as she becomes furious and thinks that Blair and Gabe are secretly sleeping with each other, and part 1 and 2 seemingly blend into each other. Part 2 is a blend of the story written in part 1. However, Alison was a suffering wife and Blair was the young, cool artist coming to the cabin in the movie, the real movie. This hint of the cheating is referenced when Alison keeps saying that she knows that what they did and she thinks that Blair did sleep with Gabe, and the close nature of Blair and Gabe throughout is actually meant to signal this. Alison wrote the script based on her own interactions and suspicions, which is why Gabe the actor looks so much like Gabe and Blair is the same person, albeit in a reverse role of what happened there. The changes include Blair being involved with a PhD instead of an actress and writer like Alison was in part 1. And of course, the whole end part of the movie, the whole after party, is very, very curious nonetheless. Throughout part 2, the production is absolutely catastrophic, as from top down everything goes wrong as Alison starts to self-destruct from drinking to ruining the scenes. We see intricate lives and interactions between the cast. To me, it makes it feel like this is the real part of the movie. This definitely happened, but we'll get into that in a second. Eventually the movie wraps, but Gabe and Alison's relationship is all but over, and we see a similar moment as Blair and Gabe get down to it after swimming and flirting. We almost see an exact mirror version of when Alison and Gabe got down to it, but we see Blair and Gabe get down to it as well as a bear appears, the one that has been stalking the whole movie. However, at the end she goes back to the dock and this bookends the movie. She seemingly then goes to write again, further unpacking her trauma of not only part 1, but also the experience of part 2. And yes, if we go back to the synopsis, well, we don't know what is real, what is autobiography, and what is invention. So, basically what happened is, the first part of the movie did actually happen. Yes, that all happened, but albeit it was reversed. So basically, part 2 is them making a movie. However, the real of the kind of what actually happened was in part 1, and then in part 2 we did see them make a movie based on what happened. So everything was changed up, but albeit the underlying plot point of Alison's husband did cheat with someone else. Yes, that is very interesting, and that's why the director, Gabe, did say that, well, this is going to ruin us. Very interesting one there nonetheless. But that is it for this video. Please drop a like down below, please do subscribe, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.